Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before we dive in, I want you to know that this video might challenge some of your deepest held beliefs about what it means to be a good person. So if you're tempted to skip ahead or click away, I urge you to resist that impulse. What we're about to explore could fundamentally change how you approach your relationships and your life. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for this one. We've all heard it before. Empathy is the key to being a good person. Put yourself in someone else's shoes. Feel their pain. It sounds noble, doesn't it? But what if I told you that this widely accepted wisdom might be leading you down a path of self-destruction? What if empathy, taken to its extreme, could actually harm you and those around you? Today, we're going to challenge the status quo and explore a controversial idea: the dangers of empathy. We'll dive deep into how caring too much can destroy you, and we'll look at this through the lens of Stoic philosophy and ancient wisdom that might just hold the key to a more balanced, fulfilling life. Let's start with a quote from Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers. "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This simple, yet profound statement lies at the heart of our discussion today. We often think that empathy, feeling what others feel, gives us power to help and connect. But does it really? Or does it simply overwhelm us with emotions we can't control? Imagine you're walking down the street and you see a homeless person. Your heart aches. You feel their cold, their hunger, their despair. That's empathy at work. But here's the thing: in that moment, have you actually helped them? Or have you just taken on their suffering as your own? This is where the danger begins. Empathy, unchecked, can lead us to take on the world's pain without actually changing anything. It's like trying to empty the ocean with a teaspoon, exhausting and ultimately futile. Now, I know what you're thinking. But isn't empathy what makes us human? Isn't it what allows us to connect and help others? And you're not entirely wrong. Empathy does have its place, but like any tool, it needs to be used wisely. Let's turn to another Stoic philosopher, Epictetus, who said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is crucial. Empathy often makes us react instinctively, emotionally. But is that always the best way to help? Let's break this down with some real-world examples. Scenario 1. Your friend is going through a tough breakup. You feel their pain so intensely that you find yourself crying with them for hours, neglecting your own responsibilities and mental health. Scenario 2. You're a doctor treating patients with terminal illnesses. You empathize so deeply with each patient that you start experiencing symptoms of depression and burnout. Scenario 3. You're watching the news and feel overwhelmed by all the suffering in the world. You donate money you can't afford to every cause, leaving yourself in financial trouble. In each of these scenarios, empathy has led to a negative outcome, not just for you, but potentially for those you're trying to help. Your crying friend might feel guilty for burdening you. Your patients might suffer because you're too emotionally drained to provide the best care. And your financial instability might prevent you from making a sustainable impact in the long run. So, what's the alternative? This is where Stoicism comes in. The Stoics advocated for a different approach, one of reason, self-control, and measured action. Let's explore how this philosophy can help us navigate the pitfalls of excessive empathy. 1. Cultivate emotional resilience. Seneca, another great Stoic, said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This quote perfectly encapsulates one of the main issues with empathy. It often involves imagining others' pain and suffering it ourselves, even when it's not necessary or helpful. Instead of letting your emotions run wild, Practice emotional resilience. Acknowledge the feelings that arise when you encounter others' suffering, but don't let them consume you. Recognize that you can understand someone's pain without having to feel it yourself. 2. Focus on what you can control. Remember Marcus Aurelius's words about having power over your mind, not outside events. This is crucial. When faced with others' problems or global issues, ask yourself, what aspects of this situation can I actually influence? Often, you'll find that while you can't control the situation itself, you can control your response to it. You can offer practical help, share resources, or provide a listening ear, all without taking on the emotional burden yourself. 3. Practice rational compassion. Here's where we introduce a key concept: rational compassion. Unlike empathy, which involves feeling others' emotions, rational compassion is about understanding others' situations and responding in a measured, effective way. Epictetus provides guidance here. First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In other words, decide what kind of person you want to be, someone who helps others effectively, and then take the necessary actions, guided by reason rather than raw emotion. Now, I know this might sound cold or detached. You might be thinking, isn't this just shutting off our emotions? Not at all. It's about finding a balance, a way to care deeply without being destroyed by that care. Let's revisit our earlier scenarios with this Stoic approach. Scenario 1. Instead of crying for hours with your heartbroken friend, you listen attentively, offer practical advice if asked, and encourage them to engage in healing activities. You maintain your own emotional balance, allowing you to be a stable support system. Scenario 2. As a doctor, you practice emotional detachment while still providing compassionate care. You recognize the suffering of your patients without internalizing it, allowing you to make clear-headed decisions and avoid burnout. Scenario 3. Instead of donating impulsively, you research effective charities and create a sustainable giving plan that aligns with your financial situation. You focus on making a long-term impact rather than reacting emotionally to every crisis. By applying these Stoic principles, we can care deeply and act effectively without being overwhelmed by empathy. It's about being proactive rather than reactive, rational rather than purely emotional. Now, you might be wondering, isn't this just selfish? Aren't we supposed to put others first? This is a common misconception. But let's turn to Marcus Aurelius once again. The best way to avenge yourself is to not be like that. In the context of our discussion, this means that the best way to help others is not to join them in their suffering, but to be the stable force that can actually provide assistance. It's like the oxygen mask principle on airplanes. You need to secure your own mask before helping others. Let's delve deeper into how excessive empathy can harm just you, but also those you're trying to help. 1. Empathy fatigue. Constantly absorbing others' emotions can lead to emotional exhaustion, leaving you unable to help anyone, including yourself. 2. Skewed perspective. Intense empathy can cloud your judgment, making you prioritize immediate emotional relief over long-term solutions. 3. Enabling behavior. Sometimes, empathy can lead us to enable destructive behaviors in others, rather than encouraging them to address their problems. 4. Neglect of self. Excessive focus on others' needs often leads to neglecting your own well-being, which ultimately limits your capacity to help. 5. Manipulation vulnerability. Those who are highly empathetic can be more susceptible to emotional manipulation by others. So, how do we strike a balance? How can we care without being destroyed? Here are some practical, Stoic-inspired strategies. 1. Practice mindfulness. Be aware of your emotional responses without being controlled by them. As Epictetus said, It's not events that disturb people, it's their judgments concerning them. 2. Set boundaries. Establish clear limits on how much of others' emotional burdens you're willing to take on. Remember, you're not responsible for solving everyone's problems. 3. Cultivate wisdom. Seek to understand situations deeply rather than just feeling them intensely. Knowledge and wisdom can guide your actions more effectively than raw emotion. 4. Focus on virtues. Instead of trying to feel what others feel, focus on embodying virtues like courage, justice, and temperance in your interactions. 5. Practice self-care. Prioritize your own well-being. You can't pour from an empty cup, as the saying goes. Now, I want to address a crucial point. This approach doesn't mean becoming cold or unfeeling. It's not about suppressing your emotions or ignoring the suffering of others. Rather, it's about channeling your care and concern in a more sustainable, effective way. Think of it like this. Empathy is like a fire. In small, controlled amounts, it can provide warmth and light. But let it burn unchecked, and it will consume everything in its path, including you. Let's bring this all together with a final quote from Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is the essence of what we've discussed today. By recognizing the limits of our control and focusing on our own responses, we can develop a more resilient, effective approach to caring for others and ourselves. So, the next time you find yourself overwhelmed by empathy, remember: 1. Acknowledge the feeling without being consumed by it. 2. Ask yourself what you can actually control in the situation. 3. Choose a response based on wisdom and reason, not just emotion. 4. Take care of your own well-being so you can sustainably help others. As we wrap up, I want to challenge you to reflect on your own relationship with empathy. Are there areas in your life where caring too much might be holding you back? How could a more stoic approach help you make a bigger impact? Remember, true strength isn't found in feeling everything, it's found in choosing how to respond. By balancing empathy with reason, we can create a more sustainable, impactful way of caring for others and ourselves. If this video has resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might benefit from this perspective. And if you have thoughts or experiences to share, drop them in the comments below. Let's start a conversation about a more balanced approach to empathy. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. Until next time, take care of yourself so you can truly be there for others.